Haaland, 2-0.
The Manchester Derby is easily one of the biggest derbies in world football. There's just so much history between both clubs, and a lot has happened between them. You're about to hear some cool stuff you probably didn't know about the Manchester Derby. And where better to start than their head-to-head record? Well, considering Manchester United have a bigger history than their rivals, you would probably not be surprised to hear that they have the better head-to-head record. In their history, as of the start of the 2023-2024 season, both teams have met 190 times in competitive games, and Manchester United have an edge, winning 78 times compared to City's 53 wins, with the remaining 59 games ending in draws. Of course, in recent years, Man City seem to have the edge and have been slightly dominant over their neighbours. However, it can't be compared to the dominance United had over them between 1990 and 2002. Yes, United showed dominance over their rivals for 12 straight years. And believe it or not, United went unbeaten in all the 16 Manchester derbies played in that period. Yes, that's right, City didn't beat United in 16 games. As you probably suspect already, that period holds the record for the longest unbeaten streak in the history of the Manchester Derby. And let's be real, it's going to be pretty difficult for any of the two clubs to have that level of dominance over the other again. Because even despite City's league dominance over the past 10 years, Manchester United keep finding ways to get wins over them. Of course, those wins for United are usually by 1 or 2 goal margins. On the other hand, Manchester City have scored some really huge victories over their neighbours in recent years. Take for example the 6-3 win in the league last season where Haaland and Foden got hat-tricks. There was also the 4-1 win 2 years ago. But none of those wins compared to that famous 6-1 City win in 2011, which was actually the biggest winning margin by either team in the competitive history of the derby. And believe it or not, that was not the first time City beat their rivals by that scoreline at Old Trafford. Yep, that's right, they had previously done it way back in 1926. Of course, United once beat City 7-1 in 1941, but it was a non-competitive game so that one doesn't really count. But here's something about the 1940s that counts. Around that period, the Manchester Derby with the largest attendance in history was witnessed. Yep, that's right. You see, during the Second World War, Old Trafford suffered some significant damage from bombings, and by 1947, it was still undergoing some repairs. So, well, the Manchester Derby couldn't be held at Old Trafford that year. Rather, it was played at Main Road, which was primarily City's home stadium, but was being shared by both clubs at the time. And well, in that Manchester Derby in September 1947, a total of 78,000 fans were in attendance, making it the most attended Manchester Derby in history. Well, it's safe to say United didn't feel at home that day. But here's a man who loved to feel at home in the derby. Matter of fact, he enjoyed the derby so much that he holds the record for the player with the most goals in the Manchester Derby. And can you guess who that is? Well, it's Wayne Rooney. This man just loved scoring against Man City. In fact, he got a total of 11 goals against them in the Manchester Derby, more than even the likes of Aguero and Bobby Charlton. Of course, Rooney spent 13 years at Manchester United mostly playing as an attacker, so it's not much of a surprise that he holds that record. And with the way he enjoyed playing against them, you'd probably think he played in the highest number of derby games. But you couldn't be more wrong. There are other players who played in more Manchester Derby games than Rooney, like Ryan Giggs. Yep, that's right. You see, Giggs spent 24 years as a United player and played in quite a number of Manchester derbies. Matter of fact, he played a total of 36 times against Manchester City. And as you would expect, that's also the record for the most number of appearances for a single player in this derby. Now, fun fact, we all know Giggs spent all his senior career for Manchester United. But did you know that he also spent 2 years as a kid in the Manchester City Academy before moving to United? Well, bet you didn't. You're welcome. Now, unlike Giggs, there are other players who actually played for the senior teams of both clubs. Yeah, matter of fact, a total of 39 players have played for both clubs. And well, of those players, only 7 of them played for both clubs in the Premier League era, including guys like Carlos Tevez, Owen Hargreaves, Andy Cole and Peter Schmeichel. And here's the thing, when you play for both clubs, you'd probably expect to have a taste of defeat in at least one Manchester Derby game. Well, of course, unless your name is Peter Schmeichel. Yep, that's right. Schmeichel is the only player who played for both Manchester clubs, but never actually tasted a defeat in a Manchester Derby game. Pretty cool, right? And it's even cooler when you realize that he played a total of 11 Manchester derbies without tasting defeat. Although, it probably helped that 10 of those games were for United during that 16-game unbeaten streak against Manchester City, and the only game he played for City against United came in 2002 and ended in a draw. Of course, Schmeichel was not the last player to have played for both clubs. He was also not the first player to play for both clubs. That's because the first player to play for both Manchester clubs was Bob Malavi. Now, we've said a lot about guys who played for both clubs, but do you know how many people have coached both clubs? Well, the answer is simple. Just one. Yep, that's right. Only one man has ever coached both teams, and that's James Ernest Mangnall. And it might interest you to know that he was also the first ever coach to win a major silverware for Manchester United. Now that's pretty cool, right? Now, that's probably not as cool as this next guy, Matt Busby, the man who played for Manchester City, and then coached Manchester United after retirement. And not just that, he also won trophies with both clubs. Matter of fact, he was the first manager to win United the European Cup, and is one of the most successful managers in their history. And if you think that's cool, wait till you hear the next one, because not only did this next guy play for both clubs, but he also served as part of the coaching staff for both clubs. Yep, that's right. His name is Brian Kidd, and he's the only person to ever achieve that feat, and well, although he was never actually the head coach of either team, you'd probably agree that he did something cool. And if you still think there's anything cooler than that about the Manchester derby, do tell us in the comments section.